Imagine a world cloaked in an endless, chilling darkness. A world where the rustle of leaves in the night isn't a gentle whisper, but a signal of unseen dangers. For early humans, this was reality. They had mastered walking upright, they had shaped the first crude tools from stone, but they were still at the mercy of the elements, still just another creature of the wild. But then, something happened. A flicker of light, a dance of amber and gold in the vast emptiness. They had never felt its warmth, never seen its raw power. Until that one moment when survival itself was about to change forever. This is the story of humanity's greatest discovery. Not of gold, not of empires, but of a force of nature that we would learn to tame. Fire, our journey begins under a stormy sky. Picture our ancestors, huddled together, watching as a jagged spear of lightning tears through the heavens. It strikes a dead, dry tree with a deafening crack. And then, something miraculous. A bloom of orange light blossoms from the wood, eating away at the branches, throwing heat and a strange, mesmerizing glow into the twilight. They watch, a mix of sheer terror and utter fascination. This wasn't just light. It was alive. It was powerful. They didn't understand it, but they knew to respect it. This wild, untamable beast of light was their first teacher. They observed how it consumed dry leaves, how rain could vanquish it, and how it left behind blackened, brittle remains. The fear was real, but so was the curiosity. The seed of an idea was planted. What if this power could be held? From that first spark of observation came the first clumsy attempts at creation. Driven by a need for warmth and a desire to conquer the fear of the dark, early humans began to experiment. They picked up 2 sticks, remembering the heat from friction when they shaped their stone tools. They rubbed them together, again and again, with a desperate energy. Their hands grew raw, sweat beaded on their brows. Nothing. They tried striking stones together, hoping for a spark like the one from the sky. More often than not, the stones just broke or chipped. Failure was a constant companion. Days, maybe even weeks, were lost to these frustrating efforts. It was a lesson in patience, a grueling test of focus and technique. They learned that not all wood was the same. Some was too wet, some too soft. They discovered that certain types of stone, when struck just right, would yield a fleeting, tiny spark. It was a painstaking process of trial and error, of sharing small observations around the cold, dark camp. A slight change in angle, a different kind of wood, a faster motion, every small adjustment brought them a tiny step closer to their goal. They were no longer just reacting to their world. They were actively trying to shape it. And then, one day, it happened. A tiny spark leaped from a striking stone and landed on a bed of the driest, fluffiest moss they could find. It glowed for a second, a tiny ember of hope. They blew on it gently, their hearts pounding. Instead of dying out, the ember glowed brighter, and with a soft whoosh, a tiny, delicate flame unfurled. It was small, fragile, but it was theirs. They had done it. They had captured the lightning. Imagine the sheer wonder in their eyes as they stared at this flame they had created. It wasn't the raging inferno of the forest fire. It was a gentle, controlled source of light and warmth. As darkness fell, it pushed back the shadows, creating a small, safe circle of light. The oppressive fear of the unknown began to recede. They could see each other's faces, share expressions, and feel a sense of security they had never known before. This small flame was more than just a light. It was a beacon of newfound power. With this new tool came new experiments. The smell of meat sizzling over a wild blaze had always been intriguing. Now, they could test it themselves. Hesitantly at first, they held a piece of scavenged meat near their small fire on a stick. The result was transformative. The cooked meat was not only more flavorful, but it was infinitely easier to chew and digest. Tough plant roots, once a chore to eat, became soft and palatable when heated. This was a biological game-changer. By cooking their food, early humans unlocked a huge new source of energy. Their bodies didn't have to work as hard to process raw materials, freeing up that energy for brain development. Better nutrition led to healthier bodies, stronger immune systems, and a greater chance of survival for their young. The simple act of putting food to a flame fundamentally altered their path, making them stronger, smarter, and more resilient. But the benefits didn't stop at their stomachs. As icy winds howled and temperatures plummeted during the long, harsh nights, the fire became their shield. Before, they could only huddle together, their bodies shivering, exposed to the constant threat of freezing. Now, they could gather around a central hearth. The fire's radiant warmth kept them alive, protecting them from hypothermia and the illnesses that came with the biting cold. The campfire became the heart of their existence, a sanctuary of comfort and life in a frozen world. It was a place to rest, to recover, and to endure, and it offered more than just warmth. It offered protection. The great predators of the Stone Age, the saber-toothed cats, the giant cave bears, had always been the apex hunters of the night. Humans were easy prey. But all animals, instinctively, fear fire. Our ancestors quickly learned this. They saw how the flickering light and crackling sounds made even the boldest of beasts keep their distance. By strategically placing their campfires, they could create a protective barrier. A ring of fire meant a ring of safety. They could sleep with less fear, knowing that the flames stood guard. They even learned to wield it as a weapon, using burning torches to drive predators away from a kill or to defend their shelters. Fire turned the tables. The hunted were beginning to learn the tactics of the hunter, using nature's own power to establish their domain. Of course, a fire that is intended will die. This led to another crucial lesson: maintenance. They learned that fire was hungry. It needed to be fed. They gathered dry leaves, twigs, and larger pieces of wood to keep it burning through the night. Someone always had to be on watch, a firekeeper, whose job was vital to the entire group's survival. This responsibility taught them foresight and planning. Keeping a fire alive meant thinking ahead, gathering fuel during the day, and protecting the precious embers from wind and rain. This knowledge was passed down, becoming one of the most critical survival skills they possessed. Perhaps the most profound change fire brought wasn't just to their physical survival, but to their social structure. The campfire became the first living room. Around its warm glow, the group gathered. It was a place for cooperation. They would cook together, share the day's hunt, and mend their tools. It was here that they could communicate more effectively, the light allowing them to see facial expressions and gestures clearly. Stories could be told, plans could be made, and warnings could be shared. The fire fostered a sense of community, strengthening the bonds between individuals. It became the center of their social universe, a place of shared experience and collective security. The challenges of maintaining the fire and defending the camp required teamwork, solidifying the group and laying the groundwork for more complex societies to come. With every small success, their confidence grew. They learned to control the size of the flame, how to transport embers to a new campsite, and how to use smoke to their advantage. These weren't grand, sweeping victories, but a series of micro-achievements. Each successful meal cooked, each predator scared away, each night spent in warmth, all added up. They were no longer just surviving, they were mastering. They were learning to analyze their environment, to experiment with its elements, and to harness its power for their own benefit. Ultimately, the discovery of fire was about so much more than just warmth or light. It was humanity's first major step in mastering the natural world. It represented the triumph of observation, curiosity, and courage. It proved that by working together and refusing to give up, they could turn a terrifying force of nature into their greatest ally. That initial spark didn't just ignite a fire, it ignited human ingenuity, innovation, and our unstoppable drive to shape our own destiny. And as they sat around their fires, wrapped in a new sense of security, they began to notice other things. They saw the warm hides of the animals they hunted. They looked at the caves and rock overhangs that offered shelter from the wind and rain. The elements were still a threat, but now, armed with the power of fire and a growing understanding of their world, they were ready for the next challenge. The quest for warmth was won. Now, the quest for shelter, for clothing, and for true safety from the world was about to begin. Thanks for watching our journey back in time today. If you enjoyed this story of survival and discovery, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode, where we explore how humans built their first homes and crafted their first clothes. See you then.